So, welcome to this channel, guys. How are you today? We are good, and we are playing Pathfinder. So, for those of you who doesn't know this game, it's based on a pen and paper system, which is very famous, and it's like somewhat a dissident copy of D&D 3.5, which a lot of people liked about, and Alcat Studios just transformed it into a great CRPG, and that's what we are exploring today. So, are you guys afraid of playing unfair? Well, do not be, because today we are gonna teach you how to survive unfair. So, stick around with us and let's do this. Welcome. My name is Rogan Ball. So, guys, today we are playing Pathfinder and we are gonna learn how to survive unfair. So, first things first, let's create a new game because this is a guide through the tutorial, which is the hardest part of Pathfinder. So, you can go unfair if you pretend to go solo. If you intend to go solo, you can mess around with these things. The only thing that you can mess that doesn't switch the difficulty is like those two here. Only active companions receive experience and only skill users receive skill check experience. So this is good to mark if you want to do like a solo run, or if you want to do a different experience to all the characters you own. But I recommend in the first area, even if you're not going through a solo play, that you put it at least only active companions receive experience. And that is, guys, because you can level up to level 2 before the fight with the Thylacines, the encounter after mentioned. But let's not talk about that. Let's just start the game and create a new character. And which character is viable, you may ask, for a Pathfinder tutorial with no deaths? Well, guys, truly any character is viable, but there are some that has some advantages, and we are gonna show them today. Characters with pets, guys, they have advantages on the tutorial phase, on unfair, but pets, as you all know, they don't scale very well. So if you pretend to go with a pet character, you should know that pets are gonna get like a lot weaker through the whole game, which doesn't make them useless or anything like that. They can still be used and be somehow a bait. And if you start buffing them, if you go, for instance, with a Syrian sorcerer, they can take some shots and give your party time to prepare. But yeah, characters with pets are viable. Any character with pets can do unfair tutorial without dying, but we are not using a pet today. Next one, the sorcerer or the arcane casters. They are viable and they are very good. Sylvan sorcerer being the most broken one for unfair, in my opinion, of course, but there are some divergences, and I totally respect it. But Sylvan sorcerers are like a good class because they act like the first class, the petted class, and they have, of course, arcane powers which they can cast by distance or by getting close, depending on the situation. So there's a lot of versatility on the class. And the rest of them, like wizards, sorcerers, and druids, clerics, and all that nice stuff, they are viable classes. They can be used on unfair and tutorial to do a deathless tutorial. But you gotta notice something. If you are going for a melee engagement on tutorial, none of those classes has a base attack bonus of 1, so they only have like half, and that's a whole lot of difference in early game. So if you engage in a melee combat on unfair, in which you have to roll like a natural 20 just to hit them, you're gonna have some problems with those classes. Of course, you can cheese the fights through a whole lot different manners, especially invisibility, vanish, and all that nice stuff. But it's just gonna be cheesing, and we wanna complete this without dying even once. So yeah, that's how we are planning to roll this. Let's talk now about melee classes. For melee classes, you have the famous Paladin, which is great, has a lot of defenses, is very tanky, and can sustain a punch, which you're gonna take a lot at unfair difficulty. So Paladins can be good, Fighters can also be good and viable. Barbarians is one of the strongest melee classes at early game. And why is that? Because of the Rage. Rage gives some hit die, Rage gives some advantage on rolls, and that's something that's considerable at early game, so Barbarians are very viable. And Thugs, Rogues, Slayers, all those nice stuff, all those classes are pretty viable at unfair rating difficulty. And by tutorial, they are pretty strong, actually stronger even than the arcane casters in my opinion. So there's a representation of a paladin. We are not using a paladin today though. We are gonna try to use one of the famous but not so strong classes by itself in the tutorial, and that is, guys, the monk. The monk is something of a meme because the first monk, the traditional monk at unfair difficulty at Pathfinder as a whole was not a good class, but then this CRPG came and transformed the monk into a class that everyone should dip, because really the monk is too strong by itself. So we can do a monk to go through the tutorial and pretty much be a viable class through the whole game, because it's a dippable class. So you can use a monk to make an arcane caster, you can use a monk to make a strongest melee class, you can dip into a monk to make absolutely everything. So we are using a monk, and by now you gotta pick which is the status you are gonna prefer to own. Like if you're going with a monk, you can especially focus on wisdom and have your characters be like a perception machine, which is great. I mean, there are some tactics on unfair that pretend to exploit Ira and some cheeses that only characters with high perception can achieve, so it's a great thing to have, and it's certainly viable to an early game to have a monk with a lot of wisdom, strength, dexterity, and just on. Then there's the Scaled Fist, which is a monk that has his rolls on charisma and not wisdom. But is it good? Yeah, it's very good, because it's a monk that also has a dragon bloodline, and you can do it even by itself. You can do a full run with a level 20 monk, Scaled Fist, and it's actually gonna be a good run. It's gonna be a fun run, because monks are very fun to play, as long as you know how to position yourself and how to micromanage. And the monks doesn't even need that whole micromanage stuff. You're gonna be fine. That's the way it is. So Scaled Fist is also a very good first pick class if you want to do it solo or preserve charisma, because there are some charisma checks. There's one, if I recall it correctly, that has the difficulty check of 48. So, scaled fists, lots of charisma. At least they got a chance to get it, guys. So, yeah, you should think about that. The Sensei Monk is a monk that utilizes some bard stuff. Yeah, I personally don't like it, but some people say it's very good. If I'm using bard stuff, I prefer to go and dip into a bard. So, yeah, I don't think this is somehow a class that I would enjoy playing. That being said, it's famous for being a nice class, and it's completely viable to play it solo because it has some of the best buffs in this game, and the pretty huge buffer in this game is the bard, just so you know. And there's the traditional monk. This is a meme. This is a meme monk because it was like bad monk. Once it started, they didn't fix it, and they released the Unchained Monk, which is this one. So the traditional monk is not that great of a character, but at level 1, if you pretend or if you intend to dip only one level in monk, then this class is a great class. And why is that? Because it has a +2 bonus to will, and everything every other monk has in level 1. So, I'm sorry about that. So the traditional monk is something of a class, a dippable class, a good class to dip because of the +2 will. See the difference? And that's the only thing you should be looking at anyways if you intend to do only a level 1 into monk. And this will allow you to work with wisdom as well, so you can have a lot of perception, and you can also dip into a lot of classes using wisdom. You can dip into sorcerer and go for the imperial class, which is a wisdom base. I mean, it's not bad, you know, it's kind of great. If you want to do like a kineticist, you can dip into a psychokineticist. So you're gonna have a little bit more sustain as a monk, level 1, and then just go kineticist. That's just some examples, but yeah, you can always go for a cleric, which is a freaking broken class in this game, you know? It's a very good class, so yeah, that's a matter of choice. If you're going scaled fist, you can also go for sorcerer, you can go for bard, you can go for dragon disciple, you know, eldritch knight. This it's just how the Pathfinder system works. It allows you some versatility in your builds, and that's how we are gonna roll it. We are gonna make, for that run, a scaled fist, and of course we can go like a finesse scaled fist, but the intention of this tutorial is of course providing a way to surpass the unfair difficulty at the tutorial, because frankly after level 10 there's no difference between unfair and the other challenges, as long as you're doing like a top tier build. I mean, you gotta min-max it, but if you don't intend to min-max it, why are you playing unfair? You know, it's just suffering. If you're playing for RP, go for challenging. You know, it's a good difficulty for those of you who intend to only RP. So yeah, unfair is like something more of a hardcore based difficulty that is unfair, how the name states. So yeah, let's just try to make a build for that works, right? So yeah, you can go with the physical stats like that, and since this isn't a scaled fist, you can go for a lot of charisma. That's 16 here, and since you're going human, feel free to lower your intelligence and go for 16 dexterity as well. And why is that? Because that increases your AC. Look at that. 15, 16. Same here. 15, 16. So 16 is a good point to start. You can lower your wisdom and put another point at this, but why would you? You know? Same thing with Constitution. I don't think that 3 hit points is something to consider by going 12. So if you want to min-max and you know what you're doing, just do it like that. You know? And there you have it. A great monk that's able to, of course, sustain through the unfair difficulty. But this guy is not a defensive guy. This guy attacks. This guy bites. This guy goes for it. He goes for the fight. You know, and that's what we intend to do. We intend to go to the fight, so let's do it. 4 points here, pick whatever you want, of course. I always go for some mobility, some trickery, and some perception, persuasion, stuff like that. It's all up to you. Mobility is like a good class skill for a monk because you can get to +3 and have some, of course, ranks into dodge and defensive combat and all that nice stuff. But here we are going for trickery, perception, and persuasion because we want to disarm traps, we want to see traps, and we want to notice secret items. And we are starting our character thinking about this. So as a human you get an extra feat, and that's pretty good. And yeah, you get also the monk feat and the scaled fist bonus feat. So for feats here, what are we doing? I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. You can go for weapon focus and go like bite, claws if you intend to go dragon disciple, or other class like vivisectionist that has some coctanogens that gives you claws and shit like that. You can go for unarmed strike, of course, +1 bonus on all attack rolls are pretty good, you know. We should do it, but you can also go for power attack at this point. It's not important. One thing I don't recommend is going for dazzling display, even though it's one of the best skills, but don't go for it at level 1 in unfair, because the turn, the round you're gonna use to use dazzling, you're probably gonna die to arrows or shit like that, so don't do it. Other thing we can use here is dodge, but yeah, dodge, one more. It's gonna give us like 17 AC. Is it good? Yeah, it's good. It's good long term. You should definitely do it if you want. But there's this skill here. And the monk, you start with your fists, so deflect arrows. You know what kills you the most in the tutorial phase, guys? Arrows. I mean, it's true with the two bandits at the first real fight. It's true with the Oleg campment. So arrows kills you a lot early game, and you can deflect them by having the monk. Look at that. That's not bad, right? So if you're going for dodge, or you intend to do like a whole run with a monk, why not going for deflect arrows? You can also do it if you intend to dip into classes like magas, or classes that uses one-handed weapons, or even if you're going for like a full finesse build, it's perfectly okay to go with deflect arrows. You know, don't underestimate the power of this skill. It's a very powerful skill. The boss from the first chapter is actually someone who shoots arrows, so yeah, there's that also. So think about it. And every build you see on the internet tells you to go with crane style, and that's not a problem. You can go with crane style, but if you wanna hit harder in the tutorial, there's the dragon style, which is something you shouldn't also I mean, misunderstand, the dragon style is a very good, it fits with scaled fist, and some time down the line we're gonna get like the dragon ferocity, which is pretty good improvement to this. So yeah, dragon style is totally viable. Unarmed strike, deflect arrows, and dragon style. That's how we're gonna roll it. And let's not mess with this. And for alignments, guys, if you wanna have an easier time, lawful good. Okay? If you don't, whatever. But if you wanna have an easier time and some of the powerful and most broken items in this game are lawful good items, especially for monks. If you dip into a monk, you can use like a monk robe, so that's that. So yeah, lawful good, pretty good. That being said, whatever you want, okay? So that's our character, guys. We are gonna roll this. And the intention is going through a deathless tutorial phase without the use of invisibility to skip fights, and that means we gotta survive 3 fights, in which I'm gonna show you next time, okay? So yeah, if you like this first video, I'm gonna be having the run through the tutorial and other places in this game recorded in my next video, so make sure you follow the channel, leave a like, and yeah, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pleasure.